Oh, I don't know how I was going to take this. I'm off my damn hotspot. I grew up in an internet where the point was to, be as edgy and as shocking as possible because the thing is, the person that rages out at you, they're the fucking butt of the joke. Like the idea that someone is on their computer and they're just flipping out at their monitor is one of those things that, I guess just made you a weak fucking person, right? And from this culture, right, you had legitimately fucked up games, but you also had some absolute fucking gems along with that. And the market decided, like, you had like so many shitty shovelware games that came out. That was just some of just obviously obscene just to be obscene. And obviously no one played them because, I mean, they didn't really have a story. But every once in a while you had a cry of fear, right? Every once in a while you had a postal. Every once in a while, you had Soma, psychological horror games that came through and became cult classics. Built entire channels like Machine for Pigs, right? But now we've entered this new age in the internet. I'm not using my YouTube avatar because I'm using the fucking hotspot. We're in this age of entertainment where if you create something, people treat it as if you condone everything in that piece. Like they're treating fiction like it's reality. And it's odd because these rules, they're not imposed by the consumer, right? Because you had that Coffin of Ashley and Lele game and a lot and millions of people bought it, and the point of that game was fucked up psychological shit. You had, what was another game, Mouthwash, which was an indie psychological horror game. I think it was booted from itch.io. And you have again these odd groups of people whose entire business model is to place themselves as a risk for, like, for instance, game studios, right? Like if you don't create characters in a specific way, if you tell a story a specific way, if you portray specific things in that way, they will boycott your game. And there's reasonable things, but I mean, still kind of goofy, like with AI. Like, clearly, the market's against AI. But then there's themes and concepts, and for the most part, it seems to be attacking, quote unquote sexual themes, which just a naked woman, regardless of the situation, is considered sexual to some of these people, even if she's decapitated. And the point is to make you be like, oh, that's fucked up, which is one of the scenes that was in this game, right? Like, one of the things that, because what happened was Steam wanted like an early access, um, so they can test it, which forced the developers to kind of work ahead or work faster on like a build. And there are a lot of placeholders in that build, clearly, but one of them was like this naked woman with a horse head and she was carrying her baby. And it said it was removed because of sexual content, including minors. And it's like, uh, do I want to get into the story of the game? Well, okay, the whole point of the story of the game is you're in a state, you're helping out at the stable for this guy who's killing people and stitching horse heads to them. You know, the point is to shock, is to be like, holy shit. And that specific scene was to show the fucked up situation, right? I mean, and that's one of the paths. The other path is you just do what the guy says and you don't actually look into it. But whatever, they could have just been like, okay, just close the bitch. I mean, again, the point is to shock people, right? But now there's this new way of thinking that doesn't actually really translate into art because it's fiction, but people demand you think this way and they demand themselves to think this way. And because of that, this game just got banned, and I guess it got last minute banned from the Epic Game stores. And this is happening because, well, it was a while back, right? It was the whole Pornhub situation where people were, there are a couple instances of child porn on Pornhub.com. And okay, it was a couple instances where on Facebook there were thousands, but the point was to specifically go after Pornhub.com, and they went after the payment processors. And at first, the payment processors were like, "Look, we just facilitate business. We're effectively infrastructure. You know, it may cross our boundaries, but you know, it's up to other legislations to catch it if it's banned, if it's against the rules." But the judge ruled that no, it's like you facilitated it. You, the payment processors, actively promoted the content, and because of that, you know, payment processors are being placed in this position where they have to enforce rules from other, you know, arms of legislation. Like this is what happened with Collective Shout, right? And when they attacked Steam and they went after games that only 5 whole people played, and I mean, what there's no right or wrong answer, I suppose, but you see how people are treating fiction as if it's reality, treating games like they're drugs, which leads to situations like this. Because they could have just, like I said, they could have just asked them to fucking close, or but they didn't. They just banned the game, and now it's on GOG. And Steam, for all of its blessings, you know, they have a couple curses to them, and this is one of them. Last we reported disturbing horror game horses that have been banned from Steam, with developer Santa or whatever the fuck claiming that Valve refused to provide a clear reason for the ban or discuss it further with the studio. Now, last a possible minute before the game was set to release widely across other PC storefronts, Epic Game Store has also banned horses. The news is shared with us by Santa whatever, who passed on a press release stating that Epic Games informed them 24 hours before the game release that will not be distributing horses despite the studio's bill being approved for release weeks earlier. Per the developer, no specifics on what content was at issue were provided. Only broad and demonstrably incorrect claims that it violated their content guidelines. The studio has shared the text of emails sent to them from Epic's banning of the game, which an Epic Game Store representative has confirmed is accurate. It is as follows: "We're not unable to distribute horses on the Epic Game Store." Whatever. You can, again, hateful and abusive content. What the game is supposed to shock you. Inappropriate content. The point of the game is to be like, what the fuck? Like, what does this mean? Like, again, you see what I mean? They're treating people, they're treating art as if you're actively condoning what's in the game. With adult rating cannot be distributed adult only. It's like, okay, sure, right? Applies solely due to the uses of blockchain or NFT technology. You have some options. For one, you can make updates to your product, your compliance resubmit. And again, if you don't tell them why, and again, this is what game studios and developers have to deal with, right? You know, platforms that will just not tell you why the product's bad. And again, even if it's shocking content, it just doesn't matter. When Santa, I can't, Radgogragian, Bill Studios denied 12 hours later without further explanation. I believe Studios also stated on social media that its own IRC questionnaire submission came back with an M for mature rating rather than adult only. It is unclear what the cause of the discrepancy. Again, at this point, again, they probably paid 40, 50, 60 grand for this game, only to probably came across the desk of some Karen that just doesn't want the game to be on there. It's like, imagine doing, like, you can't make art this way. The program announced by Epic Steam's competitor GOG that they would promote and support the game. Yeah, again, good old games defending the consumer, defending games as art and as a hobby. And games meant to shock is an art form. I get it. People want to have this new way of thinking that doesn't actually translate, but you just have to think this way. But, the gamer will think another way, the complete opposite, and be like, why the fuck? Horses became highly visible online with strong support and a small but vocal opposition. It is difficult not to wonder whether this visibility played a greater role in Epic's choices than any newly discovered issue with the game. Yeah, again, you have the consumers that are like, okay, we're going to support this with our wallet just off principle, because they seem to be getting shafted for, again, a game that's meant for adults, right? Is being shafted from adults from them playing it. I didn't ask Epic Games to comment or receive the following statement from the communications director, Jake Jones. We set clear guidelines for our content that can be distributed on the Epic Games Store and found violations of those guidelines during our extensive review. At the time of this article's publication, Horses is still listed as coming soon on the Epic Games Store. Horses previously revealed several years ago and was made an appearance in a showcase like Indie Horror Showcase in Days of the Devs. It gained some attention for its deeply unsettling premise: a young man traveling to a remote horse farm to work for several weeks over the summer, only to find that the farmer's horses were actually enslaved naked humans with a horse mask affiliated to their heads. Horse says Santa Rogene is meant to be upsetting. It is at least partly a commentary on what sorts of morally horrifying things people will accept or even participate in without pushback. The subject we found was executed artfully. If upsettingly in our review, 7 out of 10 review of the game. Yeah, clearly. I mean, I don't know what else to say other than people need to step the fuck off this new generation's entertainment, right? Because this is clearly the type of shit that you played in the past, like the fucked up indie horror games you played 2010. But nowadays, it's just not allowed. And it's like, okay, what the fuck entertainment is this new generation of adults supposed to play? Right? Who the fuck know? Anime games? I guess the Gacha Gooner games really is the only thing you can do. Play. But even then, anime and Gacha games are being attacked. Like, I don't know. Well, to be fair, right? Certain Gacha games have their own launcher, and sometimes they release on Steam, but most of the times they don't. So they don't really get the visibility they need. But I think games like Nikkei Gasa Victory got a surprising amount of visibility on its own. And the game has been banned from now both Steam and Epic. Last week, we reported the developer Santa said it was rejected from Steam after the team submitted an unfinished but playable build of the game in order to create a store page. An unusual request that Valve said was necessary. Yeah, I mean, that's weird. Like, this is what I said. The Steam team wanted them to submit an early build, and they did. There's a lot of placeholders, but then it was rejected. Valve then rejected forces, generally citing in Steam's onboard documentation, as well as regardless of developers' intention with their products, we will not distribute content that appears, in our judgment, to depict sexual content involving a minor. And again, you hear this, and you think like child, like CP, but that wasn't the scene. You know, the scene was of a horse head on a naked woman, and she was holding the child like it was her child. That's not sexual. Like, the content of that is not sexual. It's fucked up. It's like, again, people need to step off this new generations of entertainment. I guess people just don't want this new generation to have good entertainment other than anime. But like I said, even that's being attacked. But my closing statement is step the fuck off. If you don't like it, you don't like it. Get over it. And it's unfortunate that I guess Steam is now, again, because of pressures placed on payment processors and what payment processors now pressed on Steam, this is a position that Steam has to hold. And hopefully this game gets because of this, the game's just, people are supporting the game just out of principle, because that's how the consumer acts, that's how the gamer acts. If I feel the game is being unneedfully shafted, I will give it my money. But anyway, that's all I really gotta say about this. Are there any comments? Wow. Comments. The most annoying part of the whole thing is that there are already significantly worse things on Steam, and Valve won't provide any info on why it's banned. Yeah, I mean, that is true. I recently started following this, but it's getting on my nerves how much censorship is being allowed and celebrated these days. Seeing comments like nothing of value was lost just annoys me. These same people would cry if their favorite anime game took away panty shots in the Western release. You're kind of mixing up the people. Like, the people that would get mad if you take away the panty shots also are sick and fucking tired of the censorship. The initial bill submitted to Steam had a child riding on a naked adult woman in a horse mask like a horse. People in bondage only wearing a mask is a sexual fetish. But that's not the point of the game. Like, okay, sure, literally anything. They knowingly inserted a child into the setting. When the bill was rejected, they immediately changed that child to an adult. Knowingly. Okay, sure, they knowingly inserted it to make it more of a fucked up scene. When the bill was rejected, they immediately changed the child to an adult. Yeah, because they were told to. That suggests they knew what they were doing was wrong. Everyone should be banning this. What? No, at first they probably didn't care, but then it was rejected, and they're like, okay. Again, not being told. They're just told a vague thing, and they're like, okay, let's change the child to an adult, and then it will still reject. That's not like there's nothing wrong with what they did. It was just intentionally vague, and they're like, okay, maybe we need to change this. I'm not going to keep going back through this. First off, this is only partly accurate. Completely removing all context and acting like this was an issue cited in the first place. You know, the people in this society are property and are forced to wear horse masks. And seeing scribe and okay, this is good. This is going on too much. If hatred can be on Steam with its school shooting DLC, Steam doesn't have a leg to stand. Why? I mean, I, I, I guess hatred was one of those games grandfathered in. They made a bad call in that game. Shouldn't mean everyone gets a free pass. Maybe it doesn't fucking matter because it's still meant to shock. Like, I think now I'm having to hold an unreasonable position because people are being unreasonable towards me with these things. They knew what they were doing and they wanted to see how far they could push it. Well, they found out. What dude's acting like he's read their fucking mind. Again, the point of the game is to shock people. That is the point. That is an art form. But for some reason, that's not allowed because of this new fucking way of thinking. I find it odd that Steam will ban this while continuing to allow scam gotcha games. Okay, to be fair, Steam has allowed games like blockchain games and scam games, but gotcha, come on, man. Like Girls Frontline 2 is fine. Don't go after that shit. You don't even gotta fucking spend a single dime. Yeah, payment processors probably putting heat on Valve and Epic. Yeah, see, this is exactly what I was talking about. You know, this is the censorship apparatus that people are voting against with their wallet. I said this was a raging, lifelong liberal. As a raging, lifelong liberal, I'm kind of tired of how everyone is so afraid of offending someone these days, lol. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Is the game offensive? Again, the point of the game is to offend the senses. That's the point. You know, that's an art form. Pretty sure normal people would agree that putting a child in a sexual scenario is wrong, but that's not what they did, brother. That's not what the fuck. That's not the situation. Again, people are just looking at this through surface level without actually looking into it. People are just actively not even looking into the thing. Steam home of the shower with your dad simulator. Yeah, dude, man. That fucking, I gotta. Do I say this on YouTube? No, fuck it. I'll not be playing this game, but artists have the right to be as nasty as they want to be. It is essential to upholding freedom of speech. You can make a game that says whatever you want, but that doesn't mean Steam is obligated to distribute it for you. I mean, I guess you're right, but I mean, GOG will do it, and people will support it off principle. And it's in Steam's interest not to adhere to activist groups and payment processors. Like Steam's doing not 8, 9 out of 10's right things right. Well, this is the 1 out of 10 things that if they would just do, they could absolutely just sweep the fucking market. Above taking like less than 30% from developers. What's crazy is that ridiculous amount of VR fashion porn games totally available on Steam. It's all clearly adult, then it is legal to do so. This game stuck a child in a fetish scenario. That's not what the fucking scenario was! No one, it's the same fucking dude. He's not paying attention. He's not looking. He's not fucking, my god. Oh my god. Reactionaries. This is why you can't have legitimate conversations online because you have the reactionary right here. He doesn't actually look into anything. He just says things. You know, verbal diarrhea just to muck up the conversation. But anyway, that's all I gotta say about this. Hell, I might even buy this game off principle, even though I might not even play it. But that's all I gotta say about this. Peace.